Book Dragons. It's Alyssa and you're watching Pages in Ink. I do have a different background today in this video. We are having a snowstorm, snowmageddon in the Pacific Northwest. I can't really have the dogs outside while I film or have Megan running errands. So the dogs, the cats, and Megan are all out in the rest of the house and I am secluded to the bedroom. So this video is brought to you by the letter J, as in January wrap up, which I'm going to be doing today. That was dumb. I'm aware. So in the month of January, I read 5 books and 1 novella. I'm just gonna count them all as 6 books. I read 1 adult historic fiction novel, I read 1 novella, I read a young adult contemporary novel, and then the other 3 are young adult fantasy books. I had a really good reading month this month. I had 1 2-star, 1 3-star, 1 4-star, and the rest were 5-star reads. So let's just go ahead and get started. So the 2-star read that I had for this month is The Lost Sisters by Holly Black. It is a part of the Cruel Prince series. I think it's actually called like the Folk of the Air series, and it is 1.5, so it takes place directly after The Cruel Prince. It is about a 50-page ebook told from Taryn's point of view. It is supposed to explain her behavior in The Cruel Prince. While I enjoyed the writing and that would have been a 4-star read for me, I just thought it was pointless and unnecessary. So spoilers, essentially it's 50 pages of Taryn coming up with excuses and saying that she did it all for love, and I just think that's a dumb excuse. So the 3-star rating that I have on this list is To All the Boys I Loved Before by Jenny Han. I do have a 1-minute review or 1-minute recap of this book that I filmed a couple weeks ago. It is about a girl named Laura Jean, and she's had 5 crushes in her life, and to these crushes or boys that she has fallen in love with, it's a crush, she writes these love letters to. Then she puts them in an envelope that is addressed and stamped. Surprise, surprise, shocker of shockers! It accidentally goes out in the mail and she has to deal with the consequences. While I haven't kept it a secret that I don't tend to read contemporary novels, I do enjoy the cheesy Hallmark movies, especially the Christmas ones. So I can get behind a good cheesy romance story. There's a couple things about this book that I really enjoyed and some things that I didn't. I loved her father in this book. Her father is a white male who does whatever he can to keep their Korean food and culture essential in their lives, which is something that Laura Jean and her sisters inherited from their mother, who passed away when they were young. I also really like the coming of age aspect in this book. At the beginning, Laura Jean does whatever is expected of her, and she's kind of the person that she is expected to be. So that means that she doesn't take any risks and she tries to just be the best daughter possible. And for her, that role model is her eldest sister who goes off to college. So she's not quite herself and she's not quite her sister at the beginning, and she slowly starts discovering who she is. As someone who has an older sister, I love seeing the aspect of her comparing herself to her sister and really realizing that it is okay to not be your older sister. What I didn't like about this book is I actually did not like the romantic aspect of it. I thought it was a little too over the top. It was a little too messy for me. I also don't like the fact that a lot of feelings were hurt unnecessarily. It almost came across that it didn't matter who was stepped on along the way as long as Laura Jean got her happy ending. So for me, this book was a 3 out of 5 stars, but for the fun, airy, love kind of chicklet side of it, it was really cute. So the next read that I want to talk about is my 4-star read for the month of January, and that was Ogre Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine. This book follows 15-year-old Evie, who is a healer, and she gets proposed to by her best friend, who she turns down. Lucinda, the problematic fairy that we know from Ella Enchanted, happens to witness this and turns her into an ogre. She has 62 days to fall in love, have that person propose to her, and for her to accept that proposal in order to turn back into a human. If she doesn't within that 62 days, she will remain an ogre forever. It is very loosely based on Beauty and the Beast. It is technically like a gender bent Beauty and the Beast. While this story had all the magic and whimsy of a Gail Carson Levine novel, it's just so hard when they market it as a prequel to Ella Enchanted. Especially when Ella Enchanted, as many of you know, for me is like my Harry Potter. So it's really hard to like a book as much as I would like Ella Enchanted. Especially when they take characters that I know or storylines that I know from, again, Ella Enchanted, how many times can I say that in this video, and kind of mess up the storyline or mess with the characters too much and kind of ruin it a little bit for me. That's where I start dropping the stars. While I loved this book and I would recommend it to anyone, and I will continue to read it and reread it because it's a Gail Carson Levine novel, I could only give it 4 stars. It just barely missed the mark of all the magic that I was hoping for. While I was a little bit disappointed reading it, it wasn't a disappointing book. So now we have reached my favorite part of the month, which is my 3 5-star reads that I have for the month. Spoiler alert, I really liked these books. So the first one that I have to talk about is The Tattooist of Auschwitz by Heather Morris. This is the true story of Lael, who was the tattooist in Auschwitz, which means that he was in charge of tattooing the numbers on the humans, the people, the human beings that went into the concentration camp. During his time in the concentration camps, he found ways to share his hope, his food, and even his love with the other prisoners. His story is so beautiful and so touching, and I feel honored that I was able to read this book and share in his story. There is absolutely no way that I could have given this story less than 5 stars. I encourage everyone to read it. It's been weeks and it still affects me, and I can still get emotional over what I read. So that's hard to transition from that because it was so somber and serious. But the next book on my list is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. In my mind, I have wavered if this is really a 5-star read or more of a 4-star read because I did not like the beginning of this book that much. The story follows Jude, who is taken to the land of the Fae with her 2 sisters after their parents are murdered. Her and her twin sister Taryn are humans, and they are not only bullied, but their lives are also threatened. They want nothing more than to belong, but because they are humans, they never will. And Jude has, you guessed it, the Cruel Prince Cardan standing in her way. So she has to choose if she wants to rise above everything or stoop so low that she becomes better than them. So the beginning of this kind of read like a weird high school, like almost bullying story. Like you can tell that the bully on the playground is pulling her pigtails because he's into her. So I had almost reached a point where that was too much and I was gonna stop reading it, but then I got about halfway through and then it turned into Game of Thrones and I really enjoyed it. I'm not sure if I love this book so much because I haven't read a lot of books that have fairies or fae or the folk in them. And I know that that's a popular thing right now. So I don't know if this is like an astonishing, amazing book or if it's because it's something new to me. But I will say the Game of Thrones aspect of this book was very intriguing and I highly recommend it for the second half of the book. Now the last book, and the certainly not least book on my list that I absolutely adored in the month of January, is Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. I read Six of Crows a couple months ago. I'm not sure why I didn't continue since it ends on a cliffhanger. Spoiler alert, it ends on a cliffhanger. Not this one, Six of Crows. I often equate Six of Crows to the first season of Gotham, where it's really dark and there's the gangs and no one is good and no one is totally evil, but they're all sort of bad. I feel like it's more than morally gray because it can get really dark. And you have those bad guys in this bad world that you root for. And that's the kind of feel that Six of Crows has. Now mix in a heist where it could either end in riches beyond all imagining. That was stolen from National Treasure, one of my favorite movies. Or it could end in their deaths. So it follows 6 characters that go on a heist and they're all morally gray. Or bad. I would say they're past morally gray. Why that is so appealing, I don't know. It took me a long time to read it, and I'm glad that I read Six of Crows, and I'm glad that I finally picked this one up. So this one continues the story of Six of Crows. It's a duology, and she's thick. She's a thick lady. She's worth it, like most thick ladies. That was dumb. I know I sound like every other booktuber. I guess I'm a basic booktuber that goes on and on and on and on about this series, but there's a reason why. Just call me basic booktuber because I love this series. So that's it for my January wrap up, where I look like an idiot for most of the video and most of my life. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to join the Book Dragon family, we would absolutely love to have you. We are nerds and we all love books here. So hit that subscribe button down below and don't forget to hit that notification bell, which lets you know when my dorky self uploads a video. I do upload twice a week. And as always, until next time, remember to be nice to yourself and be kind to others. Bye!